Good day, class. Today we're going to do one-step equations. Before we start solving one-step equations, we need to know what it means to isolate a variable. Okay? Isolating a variable, or getting the variable by itself, one side of the equation, all by itself. So the first example here, x equals 6, that variable is isolated because there's nothing on this side of the equation. Now remember, the equal sign separates the equation. There's nothing on the left side of the equation with the x, so it's isolated. Now granted, there is a 1 there, okay, but 1, when you multiply by 1, nothing happens, so 1 doesn't really matter. You can have the 1 there. Okay. Right, if we look at the second one, okay, first of all, the equal sign separates the equation. All right, find the variable p. Okay. Is it by itself? Okay. No, this one's not by itself because we have a plus 5 there. So this is not isolated. This is an equation we would have to solve. All right. Let's look at the third one. All right, equal sign separates our equation. Find the m. Okay, is the m by itself? Well, no, because there's a 3 there. Okay, so that is not isolated. Right. When we solve equations, the variable must be isolated, either on the left side or the right side. It doesn't matter, but it has to be isolated. Okay, let's look at a couple problems. So again, equal sign is going to separate my equation. Here's my x. Okay, the x is not by itself, so we need to get rid of this plus 13 here. Okay, and how we solve equations is we undo. Okay, whenever you're solving equations, you're undoing something. So if it's a multiplication, we undo it by division. If it's division, we undo it by multiplication. If it's addition, we undo it by subtraction. And if it's subtraction, we undo it by addition. Okay, it's opposite operations. So here's addition. So we're going to undo this equation by doing the opposite of adding 13, which would be subtracting 13. Okay, and the rules with equations, if you do something to one side, you have to do it to the other. I'll write that a little better. All right, so here, those 13s are going to cancel, and you're left with, and you can put a line there if you'd like, okay, x on one side, on the left side, and it's isolated. There's nothing there with it. And then you have 27 minus 13, which is 14. So there's your answer. I know a lot of you guys can do this in your head, but our equations get very large. Okay, a lot of steps, multi-steps. You need to show this step. Even though you can do it in your head, you have to show this step. Okay. All right, next one. Okay. There, the equal sign separates my equation. Here's my letter B. That's what I want to isolate. Okay. Now, then what's on the same side as the B is the minus 3. So I need to get rid of this minus 3. The opposite of minus 3, or subtracting 3, is to add 3. And what you do to one side, we have to do to the other side. Right? So these cancel. They go to 0. The B, I'm going to bring down my equal sign. And then negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4. So my answer is B equals negative 4. Okay? So it doesn't matter if B is on the right side or your variable's on the right side or left side. You have to isolate it. So find the variable first. Okay? That was an example of addition and subtraction. Let's look at the next kind. All right, on this one, the first one is multiplication. So we're going to find our variable, which is x in this case. X is not isolated. There's a 2 there. Okay, remember, whenever there's a number and a letter together, it's always multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I am going to divide by 2. Okay? Show the division as a fraction, not a division sign. Okay, so in algebra we show division by fractions. We do not use this sign. Okay? And the rule is, if you divide one side by 2, you have to divide the other side by 2. Okay? These cancel to ones, so we have x equals, and negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. So my answer is x equals negative 7. And again, I know a lot of you guys can do that in your head, but you have to show these steps. Okay, or when we get to the multi-step, it's going to be very difficult. All right, next one. Separate my equal sign. All right, so we have the left side and the right side. I'll find my x. There's my x. I'm going to isolate it. That means I have to get rid of the negative 6. Okay, to get rid of a negative 6, because it's multiplication, I have to divide by negative 6. Okay. Now, if I were to divide by a positive, my answer would be negative. So make sure when you're multiplying or dividing, it's the same sign. Okay. If I take one side, divide by negative 6, I also have to take the other side. Those cancel to ones. Two negatives make a positive, so we're stuck with an x here. And then negative 24 divided by negative 6 is a positive 4. And there's my answer. Okay. All right, next one. This one, it's a fraction. Every fraction is a division problem. So this is a division problem. Okay. So same rules. Isolate your variables. So x is when I want to get isolated. That means I got to get rid of that 4. And it's a dividing by. So the opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. Okay, and it's really 4 over 1. We don't put that, just a little more time consuming. But it's really 4 over 1, so I'm going to cancel my 4s. They cancel to 1s. So I'm left with my x equals negative 9 times 4 is negative 36. Okay. All right, next one's a little tricky because there's a 4 in the numerator and a 5 in the denominator. Okay. Again, a fraction means division. So this 5 is actually division, and this 4 is multiplication. Okay. We can look at this problem a different way. We can put the m with the numerator, and it's the exact same problem. Okay. So this one has multiplication and division. We want to get rid of the division first. Always get rid of the division. So I'm going to get rid of this 5 here, okay, because I want to isolate the m. So when I get rid of the 5, that's division. I'm going to multiply by 5. When I multiply by 5 on one side, I have to multiply by 5 on the other. The 5's cancel. I'm left with 4m equals 140 over here. Okay. Now I still have to get rid of the 4. Okay, again, we set up here, the 4 was multiplication. So I'm going to divide to get rid of it. Running out of room. 4's cancel. Okay. And m equals, and 4 will go into 140 35 times. Sorry about running out of room there. Okay. All right, next. Let's do some more examples. First of all, let's go ahead and separate the equation, and we want to isolate x. Okay, so it means I want to get everything on the same side as x on the other side, okay, off the left side. So I got to get rid of this 3. Okay, now remember, you always take the sign that's in front of this 3. So this plus sign has nothing to do with the 3, okay? But there's nothing in front of the 3, so we know it's a plus 3. Okay? And how we get rid of a plus 3 is we can subtract our negative 3. So I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Okay, those cancel. We're left with x equals, and then negative 34 minus 3 is negative 37. Okay, next one. Separate my equal sign. We want to isolate the y, so I can get rid of the minus 4. And how you get rid of a minus 4 is do the opposite, which is add 4. What you do to one side, you have to do the other. 9 plus 4 is 13. Those cancel, and I'm left with y equals 13. Okay. Remember, I know some of these you can do in your head, but please show your steps. All right, next one. Okay, we got to isolate the x. That means we got to get rid of the 2 that's on the same side. And the 2 is being multiplied to the x, so the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide by 2. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Those cancel to 1s. And x equals, right, 2 won't go into 5 evenly, so we're going to go ahead and leave that as a fraction. Next one. Okay. Isolate the x. We need to isolate the x, which means we got to get rid of the 7. The 7 is in the bottom of a fraction, which means it's division. So what we're going to do to get rid of it is multiply by 7. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Those cancel to 1s, and x equals 7 times negative 2, which is negative 14. Okay. Again, make sure you show your steps. There's only one step, show it, and we'll be on our way to 2 steps. And just a little interesting fact, ice cream is a Chinese food. Didn't know that. Have a great day.